Now we've got the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Hey, Brian, great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So we've got some major news out of Pennsylvania. Can you speak on your decision to implement automatic voter registration in the state?
Look, Brian, it's real simple. I think increased voter participation equals a stronger democracy. And this is something I've been working on for years. As you may recall, I was the attorney general before governor and worked very hard to protect voting rights, including having to go to court more than 40 times against the former president and his enablers in lawsuits that tried to make it harder for people to vote and thwart the will of the people. And by the way, Brian, we run every single time to defend the right to vote and the will of the people. I then was campaigning for governor and said that if elected, I'd continue to strengthen democracy. And one of the core ways I would do that is by implementing automatic voter registration. And yesterday on National Voter Registration Day, I made good on that promise. We know that there's about 10 million people who are eligible to vote in Pennsylvania. And there's a gap between those who are actually registered and those who could be registered of about 1.6 million, about 1.5 million people. And so we want to make it as easy as possible with security and the protocols necessary to ensure that only eligible voters can vote. But we want to make it as easy as possible for people to engage in our democracy and have their voices heard. So this really was a natural extension of the work that I've been doing for years. And I'm pleased that Pennsylvania is now an automatic voter registration state.
Now, does this encompass all voters of all ages who weren't previously eligible or registered, or does it mean that new voters will be automatically registered when they apply for a driver's license?
Got it. So here's how it works. If you go to get your driver's license or go to update it here every few years when you have to get your license updated, you'll now be presented with a pretty simple screen that walks you through that automatically registers you to vote unless you choose to opt out. You have to affirmatively choose to opt out. Otherwise, you're automatically registered. It's really important for folks to understand this is done through our DMV, and it's done with security in mind to make sure that only eligible voters are able to register. So, for example, the first question you have to answer is, are you a citizen, right? And so you go through all the different steps, and because you're at the DMV trying to get your license or get your license renewed, you already have the key documentation, the legal documents you need to register to vote. So it's kind of common sense to extend that out to make sure you're registered to vote as well.
Now, is this move legally sound? Is there anything that Republicans can do to challenge it? Because that's what we can expect to inevitably see here.
I mean, look, I'm well within my legal authority as governor to do this. I think that there's maybe a different question that's not one that is for a court of law, but really the court of public opinion, which is why are some Republicans against the idea of more people participating in our democracy? Look, Brian, I have no idea if people are going to register to vote who are Republicans or Democrats, Green Party, Independent, you name it. I have no idea if they agree with me on issues or don't agree with me on issues. That's not the point. This is not about any kind of partisan advantage. This is about strengthening our democracy. And you strengthen democracy through voter participation, regardless of what their particular viewpoint is on healthcare, taxes, whatever, you name it.
Now, just gaming this out, though, if something like this was challenged, would that challenge go to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court? What is the partisan makeup of that court? What can we expect just on the legal front, just gaming it out in the future?
Look, I don't know. There's been no lawsuits filed because I'm on firm legal ground here. And recalls the attorney general that went to court more than 40 times to defeat efforts to make it harder for people to vote and make it harder for their voices to be heard. We obviously spent a considerable amount of time getting prepared for this, and I'm certainly within my legal authority as governor to do it. I think it's also important to note that for those maybe on the other side, and it's a small group, but for those on the other side who want to complain about security, this is the most secure way to do it. This is a way because, again, you have to have all your legal documents in order. You got to be going through the process at a government facility that checks and verifies this stuff. So we're really confident, not only obviously in my legal authority to do it, but that this is going to be a safe and secure way to register to vote.
Now, what's your message to those Republican officials who are currently restricting the right to vote in their own respective states?
What the hell are you afraid of? I mean, seriously, like, what are you afraid of? I want to have more voices engaged in the process. It strengthens our democracy and makes sure that we've got a healthier system when more people are participating. It's my job to try and make sure that the rules are set in a way that only eligible voters obviously participate. And we've had free and fair, safe and secure elections here in Pennsylvania, but that we expand the opportunities to participate in a common sense way that streamlines our process.
You also announced recently that Pennsylvania would be offering universal free breakfast at schools. And that announcement came not too long after Sarah Huckabee Sanders announced the loosening of child labor laws in her state of Arkansas. So not quite the same trajectory here. Can you speak on the pretty obvious divergence of the two parties that we're seeing right now?
I mean, it's pretty clear that Sarah Sanders and I have profoundly different worldviews. I believe in making sure we give every child of God an opportunity to succeed, the freedom to chart their own course, and the opportunity to succeed. And I think that starts in our schools. And we've got to make sure we're investing in young people. And just consider this for a moment, Brian. How well do you learn on an empty stomach, right? How well do you do your job on an empty stomach? We can't expect our kids to learn if they're hungry. I think what's important to note is that this is a product of a bipartisan budget that I enacted here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, meaning Republicans and Democrats had to come together to support this. And as a result of that, we invested more money in public education than at any point in our Commonwealth's history. And part of that is providing universal free breakfast to our children. So I believe in investing in our children, adding to their freedoms, not restricting them as apparently they're doing down in Arkansas.
Yeah, it also kind of adds to this whole, Republicans have predicated so much of their identity on this notion of being pro-life, and yet I think it would be pretty tough to argue that not offering free breakfast to children who may otherwise not be able to afford it is in line with that whole mentality, that whole value system of being pro-life.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't follow a lot of what they do in Arkansas, really much of anything they do in Arkansas. I'm focused here on Pennsylvania, and here in Pennsylvania, we value freedom, we cherish our democracy, and we look for opportunities for all. And I think that begins by making sure you invest in all God's children.
Well, to that point, going back to PA, when a portion of I-95 collapsed, despite predictions that it would take months to fix, it was up and running in about 12 days. The US doesn't have a great track record on infrastructure. It's slower here, it's more expensive here. How did you guys rectify that problem in Pennsylvania, and how can that be applied to other states and even other projects in your own state?
Look, we're really proud of what we did here in Pennsylvania. Just to set the table for you, and I know obviously you command a national audience, there may be some people who are not as familiar with 95. This is a major thoroughfare that runs fully up and down the East Coast. This particular section in Philadelphia carried 175,000 cars and trucks every single day. So, Brian, that's folks trying to go to work. It's truckers trying to get materials to and from a site. It's folks just trying to go on vacation and live their lives. So this was incredibly disruptive. And we had a tanker truck catch fire and explode underneath the bridge or the overpass. And it sort of buckled one side and the other side completely fell through. And you're correct. The experts told us it would take months to get that reopened. But we weren't willing to wait months because I believe we have the best workers in the nation right here in Pennsylvania. And so what we do, we push the bureaucracy to move quicker. We relied on union labor to get this done. We promoted a sense of leadership and made sure everybody from the carpenter working there to the foreman and everybody in between felt empowered to demonstrate leadership, to make decisions. And we pushed an approach of ingenuity on that site. When we were trying to find the right material for fill, instead of using dirt, which would have, for example, been much heavier and taken longer to settle and made the project take longer, we found a recycled glass material just up the road, a place called Delaware County, south of Philadelphia, that we're able to use that was actually better for the environment, better for the road, and allowed us to move more quickly. That's just one example of the ingenuity we brought to bear. Another example is we had a live stream 24/7. People could watch the progress of these great union laborers doing their jobs, seeing the progress we were making for them. When rain threatened, Brian, and you can't do a lot of this work when the roadway gets wet, we reached out to NASCAR and our friends at Pocono Raceway and brought in the jet dryer to keep that road dry so we didn't miss a beat. Just examples of the creative approach we took. So we sped up bureaucracy, we empowered people to make decisions, we acted creatively, and as a result, we reopened I-95 in 12 days. They said it couldn't get done. We got it done, and we got it done on the strength of union labor and the strength of a hardcore GSD approach to governing. GSD are the three letters we live by here in Pennsylvania. It means, I know it's a family show, so I'll just say it means get stuff done. That's what we focused on.
Well, that seems like a good place to end off. So, Governor Shapiro, thank you for the work that you've done, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Hey, thank you, and congrats on all your success, and continue to do your important work. We appreciate you.